and the entire universe projected different dimensions and began to create different perspectives of itself, the sixth dimension was the most important dimension we could use to create more perspectives to understand ourselves. The sixth dimension represents the six spheres that form the pattern of life in the universe. This is why the flower of life consists of six spheres. When water freezes, it also forms a six-sided shape. Therefore, it is the main structure that creates every life form in the universe. Then, in order for beings to live in time and space, the six patterns of time split into six patterns of space through polarity. They then became 12 faces, or 12 beings, called the Elohim. The Elohim created every being in the universe. This is why the sixth dimension is the dimension of the architects. These architects are divided into different trinities and beings, which we call the seeds of life, or seeds of the universe. These large spheres were the first beings to create and bring life to the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions. They are called the Elohim. People typically envision them as humanoid or refer to them as angels, but the first Elohim were actually large spherical bodies in the universe, splitting themselves like cells or eggs in a mother's womb, transforming into thousands of different cells. Therefore, each of us originates from the same Elohim. The Elohim split into different frequencies and vibrations, each also called different rays of light in the universe. These different rays of light and colors filling the universe began to create the concept we call archangels. We used to refer to the Elohim of different vibrations as archangels. The first beings, the Elohim, are the largest bodies in the universe, and you are a cell within this body. The Elohim created different races, species, and various realities of the third dimension using their own bodies. The Elohim are the universe's will to understand itself, seeking different ways to know itself. Therefore, they understand that the creation of life is a way to experience their different processes and aspects through evolution. Hence, they began to transform from vibrations into geometric shapes, no longer just waves in time, and started to take the forms of life in the reality of the universe's space. The first species they created were water, earth, or minerals, fire, and air, a gas. These four elements were the first beings created in the universe. On some planets, life was created by gas, fire, minerals, or water. Our life is based on minerals and water. The first species created from these four elements numbered in the thousands. However, for us, bacteria are the most important. Through the action of water, they created the structures of all remaining species. The fifth element, which connects everything together, is called ether. It is the mind and memory related to the soul, an energy that permeates the first four elements and everything they form. From the etheric realm, the first species to be created and to give rise to living forms capable of holding the divided consciousness of the universe by themselves, were species created from fire and gas. They are more etheric, more akin to what we recognize as individuals. They were living beings from the suns and gaseous planets like Jupiter and Saturn. Those beings are completely different from us. It is impossible for us to communicate with them unless we are elementals. These first structures and species were created at the same time as the suns and galaxies. As mineral and water beings began to evolve, they combined these etheric forms with water to create the first enlightened beings, like the Pleiadians and beings from other dimensions. They could live in water while also maintaining the fire of the spirit. This is related to the creation of water in the universe. However, the water beings more closely related to us, like the Pleiadians, Lyrans, and other beings of the galaxy, began their life about 4.6 billion years ago, when the moon collided with the Earth and water came to this planet. At that time, there were other planets, many comets, and asteroids orbiting around. The moon's gravity brought large hydrogen rocks, which, when the moon collided with the Earth, formed the giant Pacific crater. This created the conditions necessary for the formation of water on the planet. This process filled the Earth with vitality and water, conditions that other planets couldn't meet due to differences in temperature or distance from the sun. This process was not carried out by the Confederation, but by the sixth dimension. They create new realities by destroying old ones. Therefore, all the chaos in the universe was crucial for bringing the seeds of life to this planet. When the patterns of the sixth dimension were created, they needed to be placed into space, which is the third dimension. But the only way to connect them with the third dimension was through time, the fourth dimension. Therefore, all the beings that gained life for the first time with the consciousness of the self needed to go through the fourth dimension. They created the first living beings and species in the fourth dimension so that they could find and experience the process. In the fourth dimension, there are 4 stages of the universe: expression, experimentation, integration, and transcendence. The main problem they encountered when creating species in the fourth dimension was that experiencing a single process might take billions of years. These major civilizations had a problem. They were immortal, living forever in one form. This posed a problem because they had to live thousands or billions of years with the same personality and the same knowledge of who they were. Therefore, if we want to find more ways to understand the universe, we need to change this. We need more life and more evolution. This is why fourth-dimensional beings were forced to die. Death became the main creation of this immortal system, ending the process of life. Therefore, transcendence and a learning process became death. Integration became aging. Experimentation became reproduction. And expression became birth. This is why all fourth-dimensional beings first created third-dimensional beings through death. This is why death is so important to us in the third dimension, as it allows beings from all dimensions to express life in different ways and understand themselves from various perspectives. The only way to evolve is by adapting to the environment. Those beings created from earth and water found that by changing their shapes, they could become more eternal, as if they had never changed. Therefore, they discovered that by altering their outward appearance, but not their inner essence, they could upload and download more information from the entire universe. This is why the process of death in the end is so important. It helps us complete one perspective and open another. For all beings that evolved from water, we are living proof of what we once were, what we have always been, and what we will continue to be: water. We are merely changing our outward forms. Water contains all the information necessary to create life and express realities in different ways, but these ways need to be experienced. Therefore, earth and minerals are needed to shape it. Throughout the history and evolution of the galaxy, minerals have been shaping water in various ways to allow it to preserve information or record data from the universe and planets. This is why beings living on other planets and in other dimensions needed minerals to shape the water structures within each being, so that their own information could transcend through time and space and life. This is also why the universe created the DNA helix to store all the information within cells, just like a planet. All this information is alive in our bodies through the minerals and water in our blood. Therefore, our DNA and blood contain all the information from the universe and galaxies.